What's happening there, Reject Nation? That felt weird to say because I'm usually sitting right here and hearing it, but now here I am on The Real Rejects, and I'm very, very excited for this episode of Koi's Comic Corner without Greg or John. This feels very strange, but regardless of the lack of Greg or John, please leave a like and subscribe and click that bell to get notified when the next video is up. Now, all of this is about a huge announcement, a leak that doesn't typically happen with Marvel. The Thunderbolts has been leaked, an announcement that rarely happens where Marvel didn't formally announce something, but it turns out the rumor is that Jake Schreier is directing a Thunderbolts property. This is huge. Rarely do we find anything out for Marvel that isn't carefully curated. This makes a lot of sense, and a lot of companies are, I think, falsely touting it as Marvel's answer to the Suicide Squad. Now, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into who the Thunderbolts are. We're going to get into a possible lineup of the things assembled to date that might make up the Thunderbolts. We're going to talk about who the possible villain might be, why I think the Thunderbolts would be a game changer for the MCU, and of course, some comic recommendations for you folks if you want to know these characters as well as I do before you get the Thunderbolts movie. Let's get after it. All right, so we know who the director is theoretically, but who are the Thunderbolts? So the Thunderbolts are a team from the comics that are really interesting because they're under the guise of being a super team a la the Avengers, a la the Defenders, a la the Fantastic Four, but they're actually villains trying to basically rip off small towns or make superhero antics profitable. They're kind of heroes for hire, but more shenanigans are involved. But what's cool about the Thunderbolts is slowly they kind of develop a moral compass. These characters with powers, these characters that have often gotten away with doing horrible things with their powers, start to realize the error in their ways and they can become good. That's some of the arcs. In other arcs, there are times when they stay villainous. In other arcs, there are times that they stay villains for the sake of their leader and actually become heroes, etc. There's about 10 different Thunderbolts teams. This comic's been around since the 90s, and it's had about 42 main members and upwards of 80 various members depending on the size of the team. So this is a lot of reading I'm trying to streamline for you guys because it's hundreds and hundreds of issues of comics. But basically the Thunderbolts are a team that has that Darth Vader I am your father twist where the American public or, the European public or wherever they're doing their heroism gets revealed like, oh no, Bullseye was helping. That wasn't actually Daredevil, etc. So I think the difference between this and the Suicide Squad is that basically the Suicide Squad are known villains that are trapped doing certain things for the sake of their own survival. So it's literally just survivalism. Whereas the Thunderbolts are a team that are working under the guise of being good guys and the average public doesn't know they're bad. And that's a huge, huge important difference because I think we're leading to a different era in the MCU where heroes aren't as beloved. We've had tastes of it with Civil War. We've had tastes of it with, I think, where we're going with Ms. Marvel. And most importantly, I think it all leads to the biggest next shift in the MCU, the X-Men. Unless there's a powder keg for a world that hates and fears them, the X-Men don't work. So yes, every single time someone talks about Marvel, inevitably the X-Men come up. Anything in Phase 4, inevitably people want the X-Men. But I do think specifically the Thunderbolts is the gateway between Miss Marvel and where we're going with the X-Men. That's where we are now with my theoretical opinion of why the Thunderbolts matter. Let's talk about who might be the Thunderbolts from what we've gathered so far in the MCU. Possible members, I think. I would have them do a kind of big five to mirror the original Avengers back in Phase 1, where you have that beautiful shot of all of them gathered together. I think it'd be beautiful symmetry to have that, like, we've been hoodwinked, these aren't heroes after all. I think they might even try to do it in movie where they confuse the audience. I think they might gather these heroes and then make you realize, oh no, I've been rooting for villains. So I think they might go Yelena Belova as Black Widow. They might go US Agent as Captain America, and they'll have some interesting commentary there because we have an audience, if you watch the show, have seen him do horrible things. But in the real world, there's lots and lots of ways to manipulate people's opinions, even though you've seen them do horrible things. You've also got Abomination, who I think is going to be the, Hulk parallel. We've got Ghost, who we last saw in Ant-Man, who's an actual member in the comic books. I think that's our first new, completely original IP member of this new Avengers team. We've got Taskmaster, who's a very important member from the comic books, but I think deserves a bit of a redemption arc. I think of any Phase 4 movie, Black Widow's Taskmaster situation is the thing that's most maligned. And if you haven't noticed, Marvel does a very good job reading message boards and going like, oh no, we messed this up, let's fix it, a la Thor the Dark World. Look at Thor the Dark World, look at what they did the Avengers Infinity War and Endgame movies, and tell me they didn't go, okay, we read that message board. I think they might do the same with Taskmaster by having Taskmaster be a very important part of this Thunderbolt situation and basically retconning and fixing a lot of the issues we all have with that character. I also hope, and this is the most, I went in order of insanity, the craziest pitch would be, if you need an Iron Man, you need someone that's a crazy, sleazy, impossibly charming, arrogant tech billionaire. Sam Rockwell. Bring back Justin Hammer and his tanned hands. Give me an Iron Man that is not doing things very selflessly. Give me that selfish Sam Rockwell that just wants to profit. He'd be perfect in the Thunderbolts. That's not canon to the comics, but you know who is Whiplash. Whiplash is a huge character from the comics, and I doubt Mickey Rourke and his bird want anything to do with this franchise, so instead you pluck Sam Rockwell, and that's the team I would assemble. Also in the comic books, Winter Soldier is a key member, often leading the team, which I think would be a really interesting twist if they have Winter Soldier maybe be the villain of the story. What if the relationship with a certain character I'm about to talk about and Winter Soldier causes a bit of a, oh no, we don't know which side to root for because we like these guys. Winter Soldier, maybe we think is brainwashed again. Maybe we're not sure where his allegiances are, but that's because of Baron Zemo. Baron Zemo is typically the big reveal leader. In the comic books, he's under the guise of this character, Citizen 5, or V. I only read it. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. I don't know if he's referred to as Citizen 5 or Citizen V, but basically that character is revealed to be Baron Zemo, and that's how we find out these heroes we've been following are in fact villains, the American public, I mean. I think by the end of the show, when they call it Captain America and the Winter Soldier, we see Baron Zemo, who we've loved and has been charming, is still duplicitous, is still capable of evil things. I think it'd be really fun to have him as the villain, as he is the core Thunderbolts leader. But in addition to that, we do have Norman Osborn as the leader at times. We have had even the Punisher as the leader of the Thunderbolts, and the one that you're going to read a lot about on the internet is General Thunderbolt Ross. Now, Thunderbolt Ross isn't the leader until like the 4th or 5th iteration of the Thunderbolts, but I do think Thunderbolt Ross would be a very interesting, captivating choice because it would deal with the military-industrial complex. It would deal with the commentary from the Civil War about the government against heroes. It would deal with a lot of the commentary we're living through now, where it's like, what do we do with these systems of power? Who do we trust? So obviously we have lost William Hurt. That does complicate things. I don't know if they would want to do a General Ross all CGI. Would he stay Red Hulk with that glorious mustache and maybe some voiceover? Would we have a new military character basically playing a parallel to Thunderbolt Ross? Any of those things are options, but I do think the most likely is Baron Zemo, and that would allow some fun friction with Winter Soldier, and he's already in these properties collecting Black Widow and US Agent and these things. I think that is the most likely scenario, and I really want to see Daniel Bruhl back and playing around with morality, duplicitousness, and overall being charming, and us being like, I like this guy. Why am I rooting for him? He's doing horrible things. Now, the question is, we have the team assembled. We have our potential leader, but who are they fighting? I don't think Winter Soldier will be the main core villain. I think it'll be a hiccup. I think it'll be a problem. I think it'll be something to solve. But what I think they're going to do, and what I hope they do, what I would do, is we met a certain officer at the end of Ms. Marvel that we'd already met in No Way Home. You should recognize that cop, officer, whatever you want to call it. The Department of Damage Control, they've turned from, in the comics, a cleanup agency. We briefly saw them in Spider-Man Homecoming. They're the people that took away Vulture's livelihood. They're the people that took away all of his assets, because that's what they do in the comic books. They clean up after superhero, supervillain fights. It's a really cool concept. There was actually, fun fact, almost an ABC show about the Department of Damage Control. I think we saw the long game. They were going to include them in the movies, and that's why that show was scrapped, but I digress. The Department of Damage Control seems to also be a bit of a policing force. The Department of Damage Control, I think, is going to start going after heroes that are underage. I think the effects of Civil War are still following up into Phase 4. We've got lots of cosmic things going on. We've got battles with gods. We've got lots of huge threats. But if you're doing a Marvel property, you still need the ground level threat. The beautiful thing about the MCU, and the thing that keeps the comic book so interesting, is while you're in the sky, you're also still in the ground. You've got characters like Punisher. You've got characters like Spider-Man. You've got characters like Ms. Marvel that handle Jersey City threats. While you have those things, you need a government situation. You had Cap and Hydra, but you also had Cap versus S.H.I.E.L.D. I think when the Sokovia Accords didn't go through, now those same people that want superheroes registered, that want superheroes made illegal, that want registration around human beings, which is a very, very, very important conversation to have about what it is to be made illegal. What you do is, we couldn't make it so masks are illegal because there's barely any masks in the MCU. That's what differs from the comic book. So we had those Sokovia Accords, where it was basically Iron Man versus Cap about registration. They can carry that on into this new team of young Avengers who are going to be wearing masks, who are going to be underage, and the question doesn't become, can these people with powers act? It'll be, can these people that aren't adults yet make decisions that affect the world? What do you do with someone that's 16 that has the power to blankety blank? What do you do with someone who can lift a car if they can't yet drive one? What do you do with that? And that's what I think they'll have this Registration Act be now. And in the comic book, there's a huge precedent for this. It's called Kamala's Law. If you watch our video reacting to episode 1, I do cover briefly Kamala's Law in the essence of it basically being the Champions, which are a very important team in the comics. They're more street level, but they're also much more political. They talk about climate change. They talked about voters' registration rights. They handle day-to-day human city issues. And the Champions, one of them gets hurt, Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan. And when she gets hurt, they are able to pass this thing called Kamala's Law. When they pass Kamala's Law, it means Miles Morales. It means Viv Vision, who is a young female Vision, the daughter of Vision. It means all of these Wasp, all of these young superheroes that are friends with Kamala are now hunted in her name. She's in a coma. It is extra painful because not only is it dragging her name through the dirt while she's in a coma, but they're worried about her friend and they're hunting people under the name Kamala, which is a very, very interesting feeling of, what do we do about this while not revealing our friend's identity? What do we do about this while we're also still trying to have regular lives? What do we do? We're kids, we can't turn to the adults. So it's a very beautiful spiritual sequel and direct sequel to Civil War, both in the comic books and I think in the movies. And who better to hunt down the Young Avengers than a team of heroes that are registered, that are a more official police force, that are then revealed, maybe in movie, to be bad guys. And that allows us, the audience, to go, okay, now the Young Avengers have someone to fight. It's not good guy versus good guy. It's good guy versus good guy that's actually bad guy. I think it'd be an incredible twist to see these heroes revealed to be villains, and that gives credence to our Young Avengers for fighting them, and it makes us all realize that just registering them isn't enough, that there needs to be accountability beyond these things. And I think it'd be a very interesting story about the importance of some legislation and the importance of trust. I think by the end of the Thunderbolts, we're going to set up a world where some heroes might be illegal, where some heroes aren't trusted, where we can have a world that hates and fears them, setting up the X-Men. And I think it all starts with episode 2 of Miss Marvel, which is coming out right now. I almost guarantee you we start to see groundwork laid throughout Miss Marvel, and we might even see Kamala's Law passed by episode 6, setting us up directly for the Thunderbolts. This is huge. This is Winter Soldier level, getting us to the point where S.H.I.E.L.D. unravels, setting up everything in Phase 3. I think Phase 4 is much more cohesive than people are giving it credit for. I think we're getting a lot more properties and therefore a lot more breadcrumbs. We just don't see what that loaf of bread is yet. That bread's cooking and it's coming and it's going to be awesome. That's what I think Thunderbolts is going to be. I think it's going to be a big bait and switch. I think it's going to be really special for the MCU, and I think it's going to lead to even bigger things. So yes, we don't have an Avengers right now, but I think we're going to have a Young Avengers. I think we're going to have a Thunderbolts, and I think it's going to blow people's minds when those characters are revealed to be villains, and that's why they're different than the Suicide Squad. I'm so excited. I cannot wait to see the Thunderbolts. It's a comic team I love from the books. I would recommend you check out not just the original run from Mark Bagley, some of the most beautiful stuff with Baron Zemo running the Thunderbolts. Check out the more recent Dark Reign run where Norman Osborn is running them. And if you want a more X-Force centric team, there's a really fun run with Deadpool, Elektra, and those characters you're probably more familiar with that came out in 06 or thereabouts. So there's a lot of great stuff. That one's called Marvel Now Thunderbolts. You can find that in a trade paperback form. If you guys want any recommendations, any specific issues or arcs, leave a comment below. I'll try to respond to it, or tweet at me, etc. I'll give you guys more Thunderbolt recommendations if you want them, but I would check out the original run, Mark Bagley art. It's long, it's glorious. I would check out the Norman Osborn Dark Reign stuff, and I would check out the Marvel Now stuff with Deadpool and the team. Those are the 3 runs I think we might pull some influences from. We'll see when Thunderbolts drops, hopefully in the next 2 years. It's exciting stuff. We'll see if this league's getting any more coverage at D23. I feel like they're going to make an official announcement in the coming months. Well, this was my first solo video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. It was literally just me talking, but for the record, Greg was here the whole time. Yeah. All right, like, subscribe, leave a comment, turn that bell on, other YouTube things. Thank you, Reject Nation, for welcoming me with open arms. Thank you for loving those first 2 videos, and thank you so much for not saying, screw this guy, talks too fast and about comics too much, we don't want him on the channel, because I appreciate being here. Much love to you guys. See you next time.